Scott, how are you this morning?
I'm awesome, Kevin. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to
What
get the
are you
chance to talk to you. I'm doing great.
doing?
Doing great.
Cool.
Living life here in the Midwest and just going from day to day. We're getting ready for some cooler weather. We've been spoiled rotten so far.
And so have we, man. We were talking before the show. I'm in Boston today, and I'm down from Chattanooga, the Southeast. Got on a plane in Atlanta, got off in Boston. It's warmer in Boston. I mean,
Really, it's hard to believe, right? Hard to
yeah,
believe at this time of year.
exactly.
I mean, we're almost in
Hey,
November.
well, I know. Yeah, my son's going to school up here, and I've been telling him, hey, watch out, it's about to get cold, but it hadn't happened yet. So we're waiting, but so far, yeah, it's been ridiculous.
Hard to believe. Um, I'd like to take a moment to introduce future viewers of this interview to Scott Colson, who, when performing or recording, goes by the name Slaw. He'll be using that name a lot pretty soon because you have a new album coming out. Talking about November around the corner, November
Yep.
1st. Here
Yep.
I Come is on the
Yep.
way. And I really appreciate you take some time out of your day to talk with me.
Man, I'm looking forward to it, man. Yeah. I feel
I'm
like I
gonna,
could be interviewing you though. I was reading, beforehand your background. I feel like we're kind of the same cloth. I mean, I read, you saw your first concert in '84. I think that's probably when I saw my first concert too, back in the day. And yeah, '80s, all of that. Love it. So anyway, I think I'd like to talk to you sometime about your background as well. So
that would be a lot of fun. That'd be a lot of
sounds very
fun.
cool.
I happen to come across your age and something I won't bring it up, but we're a year apart. How's that? That's all I'll
All
say.
right. All right, Claude. We're very young. We're very young.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
That's why I always say. So yes, product of the 80s and all the 80s music. But like you have said in some of your paperwork and in your bio and everything, that you feel like you've touched on almost every genre that is out there because you're not according to one type of music as far as
Yep.
listening, as far as playing, interpreting. That's how I am too. I worked in record stores when I was a kid, and I just listened to whatever people had on the turntable at the time.
Yeah.
I dated myself a little bit there on the music on the receiver, not necessarily a turntable. So
I still got
um,
one. I'm still got
me
one, and
me too.
all about
Yep,
it. Yeah.
me
I had
too.
to teach my kids how to use it. I showed them that little, the 45 thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, you guys have any idea what this is? No idea. I
Hey,
mean, it's funny.
you see some of those T-shirts out there that have the symbol on it, that have that adapter on it,
Yeah.
and walk up to 10 people in the street of a different generation, they wouldn't know. You're right. They
Oh, really?
wouldn't know
Oh,
what
really?
that was.
Okay. Well, put my kids on that list. They have no idea.
So let me just start with the question that people might ask first off, just to start us off here is how did your performing and songwriting name Slaw come to be? How did that come to be?
Well, it's kind of interesting. So, my name is Scott Colson, last name Colson. So, my friends start calling me by my last name for whatever reason. Hey, Colson this, Colson that. And then they thought they'd get cute and they started calling me Coleslaw. And then the lazy ones started going, Hey, Slaw, So, Slaw kind of stuck for a while. And I thought, well, there's Sting, Bono, Prince. Why not Slaw? We'll go with one word. So, you know, that's how it is. I tell you, it was an interesting story though when I released the album. Sent it out to, hey, I'm doing this, letting family and friends know. And my aunt that I hadn't talked to in a long time goes, "Hey, you know what? That's amazing. You're Slaw." She goes, Casey, who is her son, goes, he was called Slaw in high school. So I guess the same progression with his stupid friends, as well.
How about that,
Yeah.
huh? That's funny. Yeah. But the whole one name artist name kind of makes it iconic. So let's put you in that same, let's aim you towards that same trajectory that Prince and Sting were on. Let's just aim
That
for
sounds
that.
good. I am pretty much on the same, trajectory as those guys. So, seem to make sense.
So when was it that you first started picking up the guitar and playing, figuring out some chords? When did that happen?
Yeah, really, middle high school, something like that. I think early in high school. I was reading about you. I know you're kind of trained in music, was in the band. My brother was all in the band. Both sides of my family were in the band. I was a little more into kind of the sports side of things, when I was younger and stuff, but always had a kind of, interest, flair for it. And I just mess around. And yeah, I think my brother got a guitar early and I just grabbed it and started messing around with it. I've never had any, like, I'm pretty much completely just self-taught basically. So I just messing around with it. And actually it's interesting. One of the songs on this album, Baby Don't Cry, I remember, I've been asked like, hey, when did you write these songs? Right. Or when did you write it? That song, I think, was the first one. And I remember for some reason, I was like 15 years old, laying on my mom's, my bedroom, my mom's house, and just playing the two chords that I learned at the time, and started kind of humming that melody, and was like, oh, you can actually write a song here on, doesn't take much. Right? I was like, I see how this goes. So anyway, from there on, that's kind of when it started. And I just kind of really just messed around with it, when I could, throughout the years, so.
That's how it starts for a lot of people. I mean, there's, a lot of people out there who are out in that world making a living of music, and they're self-taught. A lot of people that household names, some of those one name artists like that, some of those iconic artists, they sat down with the piano or a guitar.
Yeah.
I believe that McCartney, I believe that he just, it's all up here. It's all figuring out on the piano, figuring out the guitar.
Yep. Yep. And I think I think there is, hey man, getting on, I wish I was more well versed in in all things music, as everybody does. But, I think there's a certain advantage to not being classically trained, if you will. It gives you more of just an open, canvas, because you don't feel like you need to do things a certain way. You just do the way you like, the things you like and the things you dig. So, I sure wish I had better chops on a lot of stuff, but at the same time, I think I just, I've played with some folks over the years and like, where the hell did you come up with that? I just did, but anyway, I think there's a certain advantage to being self-taught and kind of having more of an open canvas.
I completely agree. And sometimes, so it's a blessing and a curse, the whole schooling thing, because I just remember sometimes in theory classes where they would have us, writing 4-part quartets, and there was parallel motion, and you couldn't cross notes, and you had to move. And that was very rigid. And it wasn't always that rigid, but that was one of the first things I learned about writing music, like be rigid, And then the chords, I go out of my way when I write music. I go out of my way to I'm so worried about sounding like somebody else by accident, like someone's song. I mean, it's okay to have a style, of course. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm so worried about accidentally having 3 chords that someone else had in their song that were iconic chords. Yeah. And so I really dabble in some weird chords, and I don't follow the traditional progressions that I might have been taught in school. Okay. Yeah.
Probably find some magic in those chords too, though.
I love it.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting. A friend of mine, it's like, played him a song I wrote, whatever. And he's a drummer, got an amateur drummer, and he's playing it. And, he's talking to me about, man, I like your song. I've been working, with the song. And he goes, whatever. He goes, that's in 3/4 time or whatever it is. He's talking to me about all this stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I just played it, man. He's telling me.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah. He's telling me more about the technical side than I know what it is. So anyway, it's always interesting.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And we all come from a different place, whether trained or self-taught. Like for me, piano, I'm self-taught. I wish I had to take a couple classes in college just to be able to be in a classroom, maybe able to plunk something out. But I really, I play a lot of piano, and I wish I had taken lessons growing up. So that's a lesson for anybody. I know you try to mentor young people to learn from the errors that we make in our lives, and to not worry about chasing our goals. Don't let anybody talk us out of them. And I think that's a really good goal, is that if you have any hankering towards playing an instrument as a youngster, to not worry about how hard it might be, or how many calluses you have to get in your fingers, or how many keys you have to hit at the same time on the piano, and just go for it. Because I really wish I had done that with piano.
I think, I don't think you talk to anybody and goes, you know what? I had plenty of lessons. Yeah. I had plenty of training. I had all I needed. That just doesn't happen. The only thing you hear is, man, I wish I had taken more. I had learned more and spent more time with it. But at the same time, it's hard. You're growing up. You're living your life. It's hard to know what you're going to want, down the road. But yeah, if you have a thing for music, I think younger folks can. The message would be, hey, I guarantee you're going to wish you had done more at an early age if you get into it later. So I think we can all agree on that one.
And I suppose it applies to almost everything in life too, because I mean, I wish that I had paid more attention to my my father's older now, so he's not doing the projects he used to do, but was such a handy person. And again, growing up, you don't pay attention. Now I have my own house and my own family, and I wish I'd paid attention to how he was building things. He reconstructed rooms and electric and drywall. Did I pay attention? No, I was out with my friends.
Exactly, man. Well, life is tough. I'm sure you're the same way as me. I have so many interests.
Hmm?
It's not, I envy people to a certain extent that just know early on, hey, I'm going to be a musician or I'm going to be a doctor or whatever it is, because they kind of have this clear path. I kind of sit into, oh man, that's cool. I'm gonna do that. Oh, that's cool. I've been, and I still do, so,
Yeah.
it's tough to just kind of pick one thing, but, which also has its advantages to do, to kind of be a Renaissance person, as well. But yeah, if you want to be good at something, you gotta dedicate yourself to it. So
And I think what kind of ties in with some of the things I've been reading about your philosophy on life and music and everything is that don't let a door close because it may open another one. And I think plenty of times in my life when a door closed and I thought, well, that's it. And if that door hadn't closed, I wouldn't have been able to experience this other career that was amazing, that gave me so much pleasure and joy. Had I just gone to be a teacher my whole life, I love teaching. But had I gone my whole life to be a teacher, I wouldn't have worked for a record label. I wouldn't have worked in record stores. I wouldn't have worked in theaters. So I'm really
right,
grateful that
yeah,
it did close.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Some of the darkest times in my life have just been just the beginning of something better.
That's
So
wonderful.
there you
Yeah.
go.
So, how long was it from the point that you started playing guitar and dabbling in chords and everything that you found yourself? I know you said you started writing the two chords and laying down in mom's bed just playing some chords, but when you really started writing these full songs, besides the one that you came up with that day, like that you really started getting into this. I want to write songs. I want to do something with them.
Man, not until for my own, from myself, for my this new solo career that I'm
Yeah.
launching here. I never I wrote a lot of songs, but I just played in a lot of bands. Played with the guys. Guys messed around in college, and then connected with some good friends from high school that I knew after that, and started playing around Atlanta and so forth. And we wrote a lot of songs, but they were fun songs. We're playing covers, we're playing bars and stuff, and having a good time. And we'd write songs and didn't take ourselves very seriously, right? So songs are more kind of on the silly side,
Uh-huh.
rock songs. We played a lot of blues songs. And I guess at some point, and I can't even really put my finger on it, I would call it like maybe 6 years, 7 years ago. um what I think really kind of got me back into the music scene and wanted me to kind of pursue things more seriously or on a solo level really was kind of this online collaboration that takes place these days, right? And I was messing around, and I don't even remember what got it started, but I started kind of playing around and collaborating with folks online. And you write a song, and in the old in the 80s, 90s, or whenever, you write a song and you want to have I don't know, violinist play on you. Oh, man, this would be cool with a violin part on it. There's not a handy violin down the street, that
Right.
you can find, right? So this whole thing kind of, man, I was, doing, people were sending me parts and backup solos from, Israel and,
Huh.
all over the world. It's
Wow.
just
Yeah.
amazing stuff. And I was like, this is cool. And I don't know, I kind of re-inspired me. I'm like, well, I'm going to try to, really create, my own, thing here, my own solo record. So I kind of went on a very, I don't know, for maybe a 2 or 3 year period, just a really creative spurt, for me, and wrote a lot of songs, and really woodshedded them, went to work on them, start to finish, complete songs. And so this album is really just a compilation of, mostly it's the songs that came out of that era, but also that song I talked to you about when I was 15 on the bed is on there too. So I mean, it's weird how that sticks around. I'm sure you know all about that. You got something that was cool that just kind of lingers in your mind and somehow survives, and you
Yeah.
know put that together, finished it for your change rather than just mess around with it. And yeah, so that's how where we are now.
Did you find yourself, or do you find yourself, I should say, sometimes having these chords and these songs and maybe starting to write a verse and then putting it aside? That sounds like that's what happened back then. You finished it now. Writing the verse or writing the bridge and coming back to it and saying, hey, I want to write some more lyrics. I want to write another chord passage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Yeah, there's that, and that's how I typically start when I write songs is I start with a cool part. Typically it's a cool hook or it's a cool
Yeah.
melody, right? And oh, that's cool. And then I'll build out from there. I don't typically start out with like just chord patterns. I don't really sit around and just play chords or, and just the music side. I really always start. I'm mainly a vocalist, Kevin. I sing more. I've always sung more than I do anything else. I was always the lead singer in all, bands and stuff that I played in or whatever. So for me, I always start with the hooks or a cool melody or something like that, and then figure out the music underneath it, and build from there. So if it's a cool verse, maybe okay, how would a good chorus project in here? How do we get between them with a bridge? How do we start? How do we finish? So that's typically how I build stuff. So anyway,
Yeah, I would say probably the same for me in a sense. And I know that you said that it's I forget your exact quote, but the beauty of when the music and the lyrics come together like that. And so you said sometimes you start like that with that hook, and
yep,
sometimes the lyrics kind of come along at the same time. It's just whatever happens. So
yep,
most of the time it's the music and the hook, and sometimes a couple lyrics will slide in at the same time.
yep, exactly. And I yeah, exactly. And when I say a hook, I'll come up with a hook, and it's not like I know the exact words. It's really just a
Right.
la 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 la,
Sure.
whatever it's at
Hmm.
that point. Something cool, and then so that's kind of an open canvas too. In that, okay, well, what's the chord progression here for that? And then what does what words would fit there? And both meaningfully and with what you're trying, with the structure of the melody or whatever you're trying to say at that point.
Right.
So for me, that's even, there's different ways to say different things, and different words fit for me better than others. So I was between me and you, I always have, not between me and you, this is a podcast, but between others, but I hear this story about Bernie Taupin like handing these lyrics to Elton John,
Hmm.
just using that exact poem. And I
Yeah.
mean, I can't imagine doing that. I mean, you know, and it makes it work, I guess. But I wonder if he did change some words here and there to make it fit a little better. I would love to know if that was absolute. You probably do into music as you are,
I
but
I don't know for sure, but I'm a big fan of
yeah,
Elton and
well, me
Bernie,
too.
and
Huge.
yeah, and I it's interesting how they got together. The whole thing with the magazine, I think Melody Maker magazine or something. They he was almost not going to answer this ad, and he decided to answer the ad for Bernie's. Bernie wanted melodies,
Yeah,
and I. It's amazing that all these years, all these records that he did, I think he did a couple where Bernie took a break, or he asked Bernie he wanted to do something different. Elton wanted to do something different, but 90% of them were, words by Elton and music by Bernie. And I think, I mean, I don't know. Elton is very specific about things. So there's probably times when he didn't want to say to the public, "Hey, I changed some lyrics up. I changed my melody up when I heard this." Or but Bernie changed his lyrics up. The two of them,
yeah,
they probably said this kind of like a Lennon and McCartney thing, where it's like, "Hey, we're gonna put both our names in all the songs," and that kind of
right.
thing. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Until recently, right? Paul's gonna put my name
Yes.
here first.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of discussions with Yoko and
Yeah,
Paul and about all
yeah.
that stuff. Yes.
It's just interesting because that's a big thing for me because when I just feel like, if there's a certain, structure that you want there, you want to say something, there's a meaning you want, there's a lot of different ways to say it, and some things fit way better than others, so I'd hate to fit like this 3 syllable word in here where it really needs to be 2 syllables or, da, da. You can do it, of
Sure.
course, but so, I could create, that's
That's
something I
the
think.
fun part. That's the
Yeah,
fun part.
it is. Well, and also the agonizing part. Like I'm never going to
Yeah.
get here, man.
Well,
So,
I always find I do better when I don't bring my Hallmark person with me to help me write lyrics, because I don't like to rhyme all the time. You don't have to rhyme. I do rhyme. Obviously, it's that's one of the biggest things
yeah,
about singing. But it's always so freeing when you could realize that, oh, I could write a song without rhyming, because then you find yourself, like you said, the
yeah,
2 syllable word, the 1 syllable word, or the right rhyme, and then you
yeah.
realize that your song is suddenly becoming planned.
Well, I'll give you an example actually on this album. There's a "Here I Come" actually, the title track song on here. So there's a part on there where I kind of it's like here I come, and I struggled for a while like trying to find a word like "Hey, here I come," or and I just couldn't find one. So I was humming like here, so I thought, I go, you know what? That sounds cool. I'm not going to even put a word here. I'm just going to hum it. So, that's how it works. I couldn't even ever, I never did find a word. So I just left the hum. And I imagine, you hear a lot of music where people are humming or, just, have a little something. I imagine a lot of that's just placeholders that they had. And that's just the way it ends up on the song.
Could have been the
Because
way
it
they
sounds
started the
cool.
melody even, right? The
Yeah,
melody could have even
it
been
just
that la
sounds
la
cool.
la
So, hey,
or
I'm
the
just going to leave it here. Just going to leave it. So,
yeah.
I think a lot of times when you hear that in music, I think that's probably what happened. So
I never really thought about that. I mean, as far as like the like, maybe someone like an Alicia Keys or something starts with a big la la or going way back. I mean, I hate dating myself like this, but like Minnie Riperton when she sings like "Loving
just
You"
don't
and she's
start talking about Sinatra, man. We'll be
yeah.
all right. And,
So when I start mentioning 20s vaudeville people, we gotta stop
right,
and
yeah,
hold
dude.
back a little
We
bit
gotta
here.
edit that out. Yeah.
But it's just it's interesting though because yeah, and the little bit of teaching I do, a lot of like just private lesson teaching, my students don't want to sing those parts. They don't want to sing that. They're embarrassed. They're embarrassed to do like my young students, the teenagers and the tweens they're embarrassed to sing. I said that's part of the song. I want to hear that. I want to hear that opening,
Yeah.
run. Yeah, I want to. You don't wait till the
Good
first
stuff.
words come in. I want to hear that too.
Yeah,
so
heck yeah.
so um so you've lived in the South most of your life, and I know you moved across Georgia when you were young.
Yep.
Do you think that your path would have still brought you back to music if you had stayed in Macon?
Well, yeah, I could never escape music. You know how it is. I mean, I think I'm
Yeah,
preaching to the choir here. I mean, it's just part of you, when and yeah, I think that music is more just part of me than where I was living. I mean, I could have
right.
been anywhere. It never, it never escapes. You're always, it's always going to be a part of you. And, yeah, I mean, and even in Macon, I mean, I was Macon, Georgia. It's a legendary, place in the South or what have you.
Yeah,
And, you know, but music is just kind of built into you more than it is where you are, in my opinion, especially this day and age. You can hear music and everything else.
yeah.
I was lucky enough, my both sides of my family were musical. And my I do have I am a descendant of a not a descendant, I'm of a relative that by one claim to fame in my family, in Macon, Georgia, of course, is a huge Southern rock bed. My cousin was the lead singer for the Atlanta Rhythm Section.
Ronnie Hammond.
ARS, Ronnie Hammond. Yep, there you
Yeah,
go.
I
And
was I
so,
was I was interested to read that was very fascinating, and they say that their biggest successes occurred during the period of time when he was singing lead vocals for them. About a 10-year period, they said that's when they had their biggest success when he
oh,
was doing the
absolutely.
vocal.
I mean, they're still playing and whatever, but they were actually huge, back in the
Yeah.
70s, Champagne
Oh
Jam,
yeah.
that and go back. I actually just I don't know why I just went back and listened to a lot of that stuff and it's some really really good stuff actually. And anyway, that's my one claim to fame, and Macon, still have family that's down there, and there's James Brown, Little Richard, those folks.
Right.
There's a lot of soul that comes out of there too,
Lots of
so
influences for sure in that area, and that's why I think the reason for my question too might have been too that just like maybe there's an apprenticeship that you're going to be tied into to being a blacksmith or something or doing whatever it was going to be builder, and then if you hadn't left, that's why I was kind of curious about too, like if you hadn't left Macon, because I think the
oh, you
South
think
in
if I
general,
stayed there, I
Nashville,
might have getting more. I don't know, man. I'd like to think that, but I was not. I left at an early age. I was there at
yeah,
3, so I can't really speak
it's
to
hard to
it.
say. Oh,
Uh,
three, okay,
no, third grade, third grade.
third
I
grade,
left
third grade, okay.
third grade, so I still have memories of being back there. And like I said, I still have family kind of in the area. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
We never know. I mean, we never really know
I
that
think
path. I
so.
was just curious if there was. I didn't know how old you were when you left there, and I was just kind of
Yeah,
curious
no,
as
that's
to.
an interesting thing. I know. Had I stayed in Macon, but yeah, I don't know. But it's an interesting thing to think about.
So going back to Elton for a quick second, you then moved to Peachtree City, I believe,
Yes, that's right.
and
A little
we
different than
traveled. Which I'm sorry.
little different than Macon. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit different, right? Right, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just outside of Atlanta, outside the big city, and part of a big city,
Oh yeah.
suburb.
Oh yeah.
My sister lives in Florida, and we would drive a lot of times down there,
Okay.
and we'd go through Atlanta and everything. And one of my goals was to, when night we were traveling, I said, let's just find this Peachtree Road where he made the one album, Peachtree Road. So we found that. We saw the big building where he lives in his
Well,
apartment.
man, it's impressive that you found because every street in Atlanta has the word Peachtree in it. You know that, right? I mean, so
I saw a lot of that. Yeah.
but you found me Peachtree. Okay, good.
I
Yeah,
think I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because then it moves down. There's an old theater up the street.
okay.
I think there's like an old theater, and then down the road there's the big, it's like a big, like
Okay.
high-rise apartment
Yeah,
complex,
yeah,
maybe
yeah, yeah,
15,
yeah.
20 stories.
Fox Theater was it
Yeah, I think so. I
yeah,
think
maybe the
so.
Fox Theater. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we
Okay.
happened to just stay in a hotel right down the street. So of course, me, the music junkie I am, I had to take a picture by the street sign, and because I have the album at home, and I just had to do a little bit of touristy
Of
rock
course.
and roll stuff.
Yeah, it's your duty, man. That's what
You
you
have
do.
to. When I travel, yeah, exactly.
That's right.
When I travel, I'm always looking for that, even for business. When I was traveling for business, I'd always see if there was a concert in town that I can go to at night, after the business
Yeah.
day ended. And it's always about the music.
Fox Theater is actually a cool place, man. And if you go in there to I think it's like the ticket office, but they have on the walls up here all these. I think they have it like blown up. These tickets of all these legendary people that have played in the Fox. It's really well done. It's cool. Just for anybody who's in town, it's kind of worth checking out. Yeah.
That's really neat. That's really neat. Yeah, for sure. And I can't remember. I remember seeing the marquee that day, and it was someone very big that was playing there. So I realized it was National Artist Theater, and I was like, wow, that's really cool.
It is. There've been some big names come through there. I lived right next door to the Fox for a while.
Okay, so you're right there. You know that whole area. That's where
I went to school at Georgia Tech, so I'm very familiar, which is like 3 blocks down North Avenue, right down there from the Fox. There's like the Fox, and then you go down to the Varsity, which is the big. Maybe you've heard of the Varsity. It's the biggest fast food restaurant on the planet.
Oh, okay. No, I hadn't. Yeah, okay.
So it took like 5 years off my life eating there. And then, yeah, so Georgia Tech's within walking distance, right, just down below there. So
that was one of the places. Was that, would you call it one of the places where one of the opportunities where you first really played? I know you had a lot of bands in the 20s and 30s, but where you won a contest, right? At the university, as like a songwriters night, or
yeah. I went to school at Georgia Tech, was in a fraternity, and you had to sign up to wash dishes and stuff when you were there. And I don't know, I was in there. I can't remember. I was like humming a song or something like that, and they had like the Greek week or homecoming thing, and somebody heard me like, man, okay, and then they next thing I know, the Greek week chairman of whoever it was comes up to me. He's like, hey man, you're in. I guess
wow.
So I sang Heartbreak Hotel in the talent show for the college there, and yeah,
you guys won.
Yeah, won it. Yeah, so yeah, that was fun. Yeah, haven't been in a talent show recently though. So.
Every day you're on a stage is a talent show. How's that? Every day you're singing or recording, it's a talent show. You're using the gifts you have and the talents you have.
Yep.
So every day for musicians is a talent show because you're using what you can get.
Yeah, for sure.
What kinds of bands? I know you said you wrote some songs for the band, kind of a little silly sometimes and everything. What bands did you find yourselves covering that you really enjoyed covering, like certain songs?
Well, I tell you, man, those stuff I really loved. We played. I talked my friends that I kind of played with in high school. Great musicians, great guys. I love them. And went back and we've never officially broken up, so we're still together. You know how that is.
Yeah.
But anyway, we I always loved, and at the time, I guess like I said, I deep dive in all these different genres, but I've always loved the blues. Big blues guy, and I talked him into starting a blues band. And let's do this blues band. And I really dug that. And these guys were the guys I played with that were kind of more on the metal side, straight out of the 80s, mullet, big time, all of that, all of the above. And so, they acquiesced and played the blues, with me, and railroaded my brother into that band. And it came out really cool because it was blues, but it was really edgy, kind of had a harder edge on it, kind of, which is kind of what Zeppelin, does, and
Right.
we really ended up coming up with some cool stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. And I like the blues a lot. It leaves a lot of open space, a lot of stuff you can just, wing and do your own thing on. So I really enjoyed playing in that band. We also and then we played a lot of other stuff, like rock, rock bands and stuff. And then later I was in a straight up, we did a lot of cover bands and stuff. And I was in a band called it was a all 70s cover band. We didn't play any songs out of, past 1979, man. I mean, and we were the Hell Bottoms was the name of our band. Had the whole full blown, bell bottoms and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So, but anyway, all that was like real, a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff, a lot of good times. But yeah, so I never really did my own thing. So I just at some point went, I'm going to make a real run at this, and that's how we got where we are today.
So yeah, so that's kind of you were doing that for a while, and you stepped away from it a little bit, right? You stepped away from that, and you kind of went into another field, another career, your own business.
Yeah, yeah. So I was never like dependent, on music for. I never was my, profession, if you will. I always just had it as a hobby.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So I was always in business, and the business that I just retired from, and we sold. I'd worked on that for maybe 10 years building it before we we sold it here about a year and a half ago.
okay.
And I was working on music, like I said, 3 years up to that, and had recorded this album, and was about to kind of jump into doing what we're doing now, launching the album, and putting the band together and start playing. And about that time, my partner said, "Hey, I think we're gonna, let's start the process to sell the business." And so I had to put my guitar down, and that was a pretty intense process for like a year and a half. So went through that, finally got that done. Like I said, about a year and a half ago, and this given me the opportunity to even, in a better way. So even though I was disappointed back then, you talk about new opportunities for me. Now I'm retired from that front, so I have a whole new time and resources to devote towards this new solo endeavor. So so it's exciting. That
Sure, yeah.
the door kind of closed and this one's opening, so it's been a lot of fun.
That's why you can always look back and realize sometimes that many times that you didn't know why it had to happen. Something had to happen. And even unfortunately, even some of the bad things that happen in life,
Sure.
that you realize that if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't have set your mind frame towards something else. So
Man, that is exactly right. And yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I said, sometimes you think it's the end of the world. I don't know where I go from here, but that sometimes takes you where you need to be going. So sometimes those bad moments are kind of the biggest, actually the brightest spots of the start of something better.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I want to dig into the new album a little bit because it's just around the corner. It's less than 10 days away, just about. It's
Yep.
Today's the 23rd. Yeah, about 8, 9 days away.
Yeah, man, exciting.
And that date for a while looks like it's way out there, and now here it is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I believe the first song that you had kind of released and put out there, kind of into channels, and it's a little bit like you made a video also was "If I Hadn't Found You," a song about your wife, right?
Yep. Well, I just released. That's the most recent single I wrote.
Okay.
The first one was "Here I Come," kind of the title track. But if I hadn't found you, yeah, the one about my wife, the one we just recently released, yeah.
And then I believe if everything's set up the way you want it to be, tomorrow are you still releasing "Hang My Head and Cry"?
I am. Yeah.
See, that's another date, another important date tomorrow.
It is. I'm excited. Yeah, the third going to release that one, and then, like you said, the album comes out November 1st. So
it's interesting because when we don't have to worry about, again, the rules of music, and the rules of the business. It used to be, okay, you get a song out there. If the song goes well, then the album's released. And I see that a lot of people who are releasing albums today, get the album really play 3 songs, get 3 songs with videos and press work and everything, and then release that album. It's getting 3 songs that are, already in movement.
Yeah. I guess so, and I'm learning this, as we go, So I'm working with my manager, her name's Erin Anderson, and she's been amazing to work with out of Nashville. And she's kind of led me, hey, this is the way we need to do this. So I'm just really, following her lead, and I'm learning as we go.
That's great, and that's sometimes the best thing because you can always adjust. You're not set in any specific pattern, and you're working with someone that knows the trends of today because they've changed very much. They've really changed.
Yeah. Well, you tell me because I this first my first album, man. Yeah.
Well, you're out there doing it. You're out there doing it. I came from a different angle. I've never been on the. I mean, I play, but I've never been on that side. I've been on the
Sure.
marketing and promotion
Yeah.
side of it, things, and that's changed so much. I mean, I was working with
Oh
a
yeah.
record label, and the reason why I'm not working for a record label anymore is because everything went from physical to digital. So that's changed the whole landscape. And how does an artist monetize their career with touring,
Yep.
merchandising,
Yep. Yep.
and then the album itself.
Yep.
So
Yep.
a lot
Absolutely.
of different things. Um, I like all the songs in the upcoming album for different reasons. I've had a chance to listen to everything.
Sure.
Um, and I especially like the song Heavy Load. I just love the Led Zeppelin recorder sound at the beginning. It just sounds like it's right out of just that whole period of time. It sounds so neat. And
Thank
then
you,
your
man.
vocals come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting that song is that's one of my favorites too. I dig that one, and that's one of those songs that I had to really woodshed. That one had just a cool part, in that one, and built it. But it's funny you mentioned Zeppelin there because we had recorded it. My producer's name's Sean Byrne. I recorded this in Nashville, and we got the song done, and it was cool enough. But I was like, man, I think wouldn't it be cool if we had like this recorder like Zeppelin? I actually just said, hey, like a stairway type of
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and I go, but you don't know anyone who plays recorder, obviously. He goes, yeah. He goes, I know somebody. He goes, he's this guy. He plays 80. He's this blind guy. He plays 80 instruments or something. I'm like, whoa,
Wow.
holy cow! And okay, so he um uh I didn't really have that, didn't have my expectations that high. And he like sent me a message. He goes, "Man, you're not gonna believe this track." And so he put it on the top of the music, and I was just blown. I was like, "Man, that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect." And yeah. Anyway, beautiful.
I love the sound. I mean, it is perfect. You're right. I love that sound. You think, okay, so you think when we're growing up, playing the recorder and stuff, you hit a couple keys and but to get that to capture the sound that just came right out of that period. Wow, 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 wow.
Yeah, the recorder. I mean, you're a teacher. That's kind of the first thing you learn, right? Everybody has the recorder.
Like
And
fourth grade, they really start picking up on
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And to think that you could use a recorder and kind of, hell, it's on Stairway to it's on the greatest song, arguably the greatest song of all time. Yeah, that's a real instrument, man. It sounds cool. So,
Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. Um, I really like the underlying theme that runs through your songs. Being willing to take a chance to chase your dreams without listening to the voices that might say it's not the right time, it's too risky. Stay with the sure thing. In the process of exploring that theme, you talk about overcoming obstacles and pushing forward when setbacks, slow you down. So I love that. I could feel that thread through everything, and I know that was your intention from reading about, your songs.
yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I tell you, Kevin, it's interesting that that's kind of been reflective though. I did not like set out and go, hey, I'm going to write an album, about, overcoming adversity or anything.
Right, right.
Just like I said, when I write music, it starts with the sound, like literally the hooks and the vocal side of it, and build back in. But this has really been the first time when I actually took it seriously and hey, let's get the lyrics right. Let's make them match the sound, the song and the message, the lyrics and the music, the three, try to meld them all together. And it's really just retrospectively that I noticed that it kind of has this underlying theme to it, and other people have noticed it as well. So it's been fascinating to me to look back and go, man, it really is kind of have something of a theme in it. But it wasn't purposeful. I'll just be
Right.
open ended, but as an open thing. But that's what came through.
Well, it's interesting because it really is. Then you think about it, is kind of looking at your life from a distance and saying, okay, well, this is, and it's obviously when you were doing the different job, when you had your own business, and when you were playing in bands and working jobs to just to make ends meet, you
Yeah.
had this in your mind, this don't give up, and I'm sure and just you wore your heart in your sleeve when you started writing. That's what came to you. That's a lot of people like to write fiction, and a lot of people like to write about themselves or
Well,
experiences.
yeah, and I think also I think kind of my feelings toward my kids come through here too. Kind of thinking back on my I wish I had done it this way, or hey, you got to hang in there to get there. And it's kind of my wish for my, kids too. So I think some of that, comes through as well, kind of a message to them, a little bit. So yeah.
And hopefully a message that people will share with other young people, through your songs and through your performances, and adults hearing your music and saying, you got to hear, it's so interesting how many kids take so much of their music from their parents, playing stuff. I mean, I grew up with things that I know now that because my parents played them, they weren't really super musical, but they liked to listen to it.
Right.
And
Right.
and to hear these messages, because I think more so now than ever, with social media and all the different platforms out there, for kids to be pulled down and bullied, that to hear a message of, hey, because when you're young, it seems like the end of the world when something goes wrong. The first girlfriend that leaves you, or the first time that someone tells you something horrible to your face about yourself, that you can't believe they told you that, and that
Right.
they would be so blunt, and those things stay with us. So for a young person, it's so difficult to let that go. And for someone we've both experienced life a little bit longer than maybe and to
Yep.
take that message and say, hey, it's all right. Push it
Yep.
aside and move on.
And I guess there's a song on the album. It's called one of the words, one of the lines is "Let it go." It's lay it down,
Yeah.
lay it down, lay it all down. And I've found that to kind of be a thing. At some point, if it's bad, hey, let's move on. Put that
Yeah.
down, lay it all down. I'm here for you, and let's move forward. So yeah, that's kind of the theme there. And yeah, like you said, I guess it tends to come through on a number of these songs. So it's been interesting to look at that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Definitely. So I guess you're releasing an album too, a vinyl with 3 bonus tracks, correct? You got 3 bonus tracks
Yeah,
coming out in that?
and had to do vinyl, of course.
Yeah, you have to.
So we did 14 interesting I came into the studio with 14 songs, and we recorded them all, and wanted to narrow it down a little bit for the normal release and the CD release and fits. But the 11 songs, I guess my songs tend to be a little bit longer than normal. I guess they're about four something, in minutes or whatever. Again, I wasn't when I write songs, I'm not trying to, it's just the song, it's not, I need to make it 3 minutes and 10 seconds, or
Right,
whatever.
right,
So they tended to come out a little bit longer, I guess, than north. So when we went to put the 11 songs on to an album, they didn't quite fit, because there's a physical constraint, as you know,
Yeah.
better than me. But and so it was like, well, what do you want to do? We could, and I was talking with my manager. She goes, well, we could do, we could cut a song. We could either cut songs or diminish the, the quality of it, which I definitely not going to do. And then it was like, she was like, well, or we could make a double album and spread it out. And I go, well, why don't we just bring these other 3 songs and put them on there? And she's, oh, great idea. So the normal album is the 11 songs. If you buy the vinyl, it's the full, full 14 songs, 3 bonus tracks. Yeah.
And is it a double album?
That's the collector's edition. That's the one.
Right, there you go. Limited copies. Hopefully, the first 300 are autographed, and and you just got go roll with that. Just roll straight forward with this stuff.
That's right, man. Everybody will be looking for those in about 70 years.
Do you is the vinyl a double then because of that?
It's double.
It's
Yeah.
a double. Yeah, it had to be, right? I mean, it's just I think
that was the only way to not cut a song or water things down. So yeah, so that's the way it is. Yeah.
That's exciting. That's exciting. When you said you came to the studio with the 14 tracks, and then you had to whittle down to put the 3 bonus on the album and everything, the vinyl, were there any other songs that I mean, I know you've been writing here and there all across your life. Were there any other songs that were big contenders that you had to put aside and say, okay, I'm just taking these for, or was it just kind of like, these are the ones I want and this is what I got?
Well, man, that was the hardest thing ever to pick the songs, because yeah, I mean, I had been playing prior to recording the album with a trio, going around and playing all these songs. I think we're playing like, 24 songs, and they're your songs and you like
Right.
them. And it's not like, it's hard to tell, it's hard to go, well, I like this song better than that one. Cause it's just, they're your songs. You created them both. And so, I guess you kind of have your favorites, but it really is difficult to narrow it down and say, well, let's go with these 11. Wait a minute,
Right.
no, wait a minute. But,
Yeah,
that's
I can only
with you.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard to do that. So, and and it's interesting. I'd play different songs to like friends or whatever. Like, hey, what do you think? Which songs? And every one of them had a different answer. Like, there wasn't like, man, you got to play Heavy Load's got to be on the album,
Yeah.
and just there was no like consensus, which was, I don't know if that's good or bad or what, but it wasn't like I was getting, you know, it was just it was tough. It was tough to narrow it down. So, I got plenty of material for the next album. Yeah.
That's great. That's fantastic. And it's good because then, sometimes after writing that first album, not that I have experience in writing a song for an album, like that. I don't have that kind of experience, but I would just think that to know you have other songs out there so that if one of these songs really, really clicks in and then
Yeah.
people are listening to this and want new stuff, you've got other stuff to just say, okay, because I think with all the music out there now, there's so much music with the internet and YouTube and everything that you almost have to strike fast. If something hits and, and you got to strike fast, well, the iron's hot and put
Yep.
something else out there.
Yep, you're right. And that would be fun. I mean,
Yeah.
just creating it and producing these things was an absolute blast. Which I had never done before in earnest, which was an amazing experience, to go with Nashville to Nashville. Like I said, I worked with this producer named Sean Byrne. He's an amazing producer. I think if you go to his website, it's the thing up there is a best kept secret in
I
Nashville.
did read that. I read off I don't know if you can see this, but I'll see if we can see this here. I don't know. Probably not going to be able to see this because it's best kept secret in the bottom of the page
There you
here.
go.
Best kept.
There you
Okay.
go, Sean. Hope this podcast puts you over the top. He's incredibly talented. He's a incredibly talented musician and producer. And
Yeah.
I talked to a few other producers, and he and I just hit it off personally too. He's a great guy, and so for me, it was a brand new experience, though, right? So I took all the demos up there to him, and we agreed on all the tempo and all the progressions and everything. He's an amazing guitar player. He laid down all the tracks, the basic tracks. I went and did all the vocals on top of that. And then we started just layering all of the other instruments on top of it. And he's just got this Rolodex of all this incredible talent there in Nashville that, okay, yeah, I'm gonna call, this cellist Brian Sutherland comes in, and for me, it's just I'm getting chills. You have this kind of talent playing your songs.
Yeah.
It's a special experience, and so just the process itself, no matter what happens, was amazing. So yeah, it's been a blast.
And to hear your song go from a melody, a guitar, and your voice to have all that layering and all those other instruments, it's really got to be so amazing.
It was, and he asked me at the beginning. He's like, Scott, how are you on this? He's like, do you want these songs played exactly like you have them here? Are you kind of that, militant guy, or do you want to give these guys some leeway to have some creativity? I was like, absolutely, give them some creativity. So it never like sacrifice the song itself, but if they came up with something really cool while they're recording it, we keep it. Like, oh man, that's awesome. This is awesome. Let's keep that.
Yeah.
So they brought a lot of cool stuff, to the album as well. So just couldn't be happier.
Well, I thought it had to be pretty amazing to be so close to Nashville. You're in Chattanooga, I believe.
Two hours away. Yeah.
And they have all those resources. I love to go down to Nashville when I can. It's not very often. Family vacations every once in a while, and but it was one period of my life when I thought maybe I would get up early on a Sunday morning, drive down there, be there, or drive down there Sunday night, be there first thing Monday morning, have a couple of hopefully a couple of interviews with people for song, have a couple of my songs heard. But that's the hard part. I could drive down there, but who's gonna listen to my songs? I was thinking, that's I'm just gonna have these appointments. How's that gonna happen? And then get back and go to work on Tuesday. How's that gonna happen? So, I had pipe dreams. I never did that, but I do love Nashville. And there's people think of it as a melting pot of country, but it's a melting pot of everything.
Oh,
everything.
Man. Oh yeah, absolutely everything. Also bachelorette parties.
Yeah, I would imagine that Friday night, right downtown. Yeah.
Oh, not Friday night, but Tuesday morning.
Oh.
There's a parade. I was down there, I don't know, a few months ago with some friends. I don't remember what I was there for, but we were watching a football game. Right? We were at one of we stopped at one of these open bars on Broadway down there.
Sure.
They're watching the game, having some drinks, and watching the parade of party buses go by. It never stopped, and it was like Tuesday at 11 a.m. I mean, It was unbelievable, so anyway,
Wow,
it,
wow, yeah.
place is out of control. But musically, as you know, it's unbelievable. That's where all, not all, but a lot of talented folks there. And it was amazing to be able to work with those folks in Nashville.
Well, on a very small level, I would say, like, I think when I was growing up and going to school, I lived in a music interest for 2 years actually. And it was the greatest thing when I was a freshman, the greatest thing when I was a sophomore. By the time I was a junior, the freshmen seems, were we like that? Did we act like that? So I had to get out and I actually took a year off of school because I didn't have an apartment. And I was like, I just got to get out of there. But, you had everybody had a different thing they brought with them. They were somewhere classical, somewhere rock, somewhere this. And it was so fun constantly those first 2 years only. But in Nashville, everybody knows it. It seems like it's just because I interview a lot of people that either their offices are in Nashville, the publicist that I work through is in Nashville sometimes, or I have friends who have now moved down there who were in the music business or other artists, and the way that they get people to work on their albums or the way they get promoters or publicists, everybody knows everybody. 6 degrees of separation in that town.
Yeah, man. So it's interesting. Yeah, and I see you got the Music City shirt. It couldn't be a better name for it, right?
Yes,
Music.
exactly, exactly.
So that's what it is. But so I told you we recorded the album, and I had to put everything down for a couple of years to get
Right.
business put away, and I went back and met with Sean and remastered the album, and I was just asking, hey, what's Kaylee doing, the vocalist or
Right.
whatever. And he was like, oh well, he's here, she's here. Andrea's touring, the violin player, Andrea Young, she's touring with Rod Stewart right now. And so, I mean,
Wow.
they know it's still a tight knit thing. He still knew exactly, where they were. He texted them right then. So yeah, all those folks up there, are, yeah, it's it's definitely a close community up there that is cool to be, to at least, be a little bit of a part of.
And everybody seems that they really, because they all have such a passion for music, that they really like to help other people. I just hear so many great stories about someone how happen chance gets to play an album, like someone ones you're just describing. Oh, I got this cellist
Yep.
and I got this violin player, and it's just someone's always willing. Someone helped them, and they're willing to help someone else.
Yeah,
Pay it forward.
for sure. They're super nice people, super thoughtful, and they know what each other's going through. They're all chasing their dreams, and they're in the same boat, if you will.
Yeah.
So, they're always very supportive of each other, and it's really a special community there.
Yeah. I wish I was a part of that in the day to day, but we've got too much family up here in the Midwest, and I just I couldn't see myself. But if I could be there, that's where I would live.
You look good in Nashville, though, man. I mean, I see you fitting in down.
I'd love to just hang out at the Bluebird once a week, and just sit there and listen to other people write, and maybe once in a while get up there myself, and it'd be just a lot of fun.
And I tell you, there's a cool place there I went and saw. It's called Backstage Nashville. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
It's really cool, man. It's not the stars, it's not Zach Bryan, but it's the music, it's the songwriters, right? The songwriters go up there and play their songs and tell the stories behind them. And these people are unbelievable, in and of themselves. And so that's inspiring as well as a songwriter to go up there and listen. I mean, I'm almost more interested in these people as a songwriter than than the star, than the front guys,
It's true.
It really, I mean, it's a different skill set and it's a different talent. And these people, anyway, just the long story short, Backstage Nashville, if anybody's ever down there, it's a very, very cool experience and you would love it, Kevin.
I have to write that down. I don't want to miss that because
Yeah,
I love, I don't know, is Wild Horse Saloon still there?
Probably, but
I don't know if it's there anymore. I mean, it was years ago. I was down there, several times, but many years ago, we just were, again, like I said, whenever we wander around to see what's going on in town, we just happened to see that. We walked in and they were filming a TV show that night for the Nashville network at the time, TNN back at the time, and it was like Terry Clark and Tanya Tucker and Jody Messina. It was all these country people. I mean, I know all the genres, but I had known at that time all these people. And then Loretta Lynn's two daughters, we had a group, the Lynns. And they were all going to be on that stage performing. We walked in to a dress rehearsal. And they said, just sit down. And I never had to, I always thought, oh, I want to be at a concert where Bruce Springsteen walks out on stage during a Sheryl Crow concert or something like that. I always want to be at that kind of concert. And I never was. And once in the blue moon, the surprises. But how cool to walk into that Wild Horse Saloon and they just said, have a seat, get a beverage and get some lunch. And you just sit here and watch this dress rehearsal. And we went back for the show that night.
that's crazy cool, man.
Yeah, so I love that about
No, yeah,
Nashville.
I don't think like, I mean, you'd have to get lucky, but that kind of stuff happens up there all the time. I mean, I am,
Right.
not,
It's just a different type of life. Hey, come on in, hey, listen to this,
it is. Love it.
I'm going to ask you a couple quick last questions so we can wrap things up. I know you got a busy day ahead of you here and street dates around the corner. So I
I'm
just
digging
asked
it,
you,
man. I'm digging it.
I was wondering if you, well, first of all, you have any plans to do some shows after this album's released? Some shows in the area or branching out a little bit to different places or?
So in the Southeast, so yeah, I reconnected with a couple of the musicians that played on the album, and so when we released the album, we're recording. I'm actually going up next week to go up for some more rehearsal up in Nashville, and yeah, going to start playing out in mid-November to follow up on the album, and yeah, get excited about putting all that together as well.
Another question related to doing shows. Is there anyone out there today performing that you feel you'd be a perfect fit to share a bill with? Just because of this is your chance to see I don't know who's listening to my podcast on any given day or my video cast, but you never know who 7 degrees of separation. Maybe someone hears it through a friend and says, "Hey,
Yeah, I mean, I've been really inspired by as a lot of different genres, a lot of older stuff. But I really these days I like I not always like stuff kind of with an edge, type of stuff to them. So I really love the whole. I'm a big fan of right now of like Tyler Childers, Coulter Wall. I'm a big Marcus King fan. I love these type of guys. And yeah, that would be amazing, for to share a stage or something with one of those guys. But yeah, there's a long list,
yeah, yeah."
as you well know, but that would be cool.
Well, you're in the place where the magic happens. You're very close to it, so
Yeah,
who knows? Who knows?
yeah,
What could happen? Who knows? And it could be a musical match.
yeah.
So
I consider letting them on the stage. I mean, I don't know.
is there anybody that you would, I mean, songwriting is so personal, but anybody that you feel like you have the same sensibilities of writing lyrics and the story behind the song that you would like to collaborate with sometime that you can see yourself collaborating with from a songwriting viewpoint?
Well, the guys I just mentioned,
The
obviously, I
guys
mean,
out, yeah.
stuff. I mean, man, up high on the list, I think Chris Stapleton is just an off the charts songwriter and
Yeah.
list and all the above. I mean, I love his older stuff when he was with the Steel Drivers too. I don't know if you've ever tapped into that stuff, but
I've not listened to the Steel Driver stuff, not yet. No.
I love every variation of the Steel Drivers, but he was the lead singer, and I think wrote most or all of their songs on some of those original albums back then, and they're just incredible. I think they're better than his solo stuff.
Yeah.
And it's worth tapping into. Just some really brilliant stuff. And I would say that it's kind of in the same vein as me, if you will. It's really, I think, heartfelt. It's really kind of that down home type of feel and soulful type of stuff, and just kind of stuff that I love. So I mean, yeah, that's some special stuff there.
Just want to ask you one last question. What would be the best way, the best forms of, we're in this world of social media and I had to embrace it for the couple of things I do in life with music or whatever. But where are some of the places that you feel like if someone wanted to look up a little bit about you, they would, or see you interacting back and forth with questions and answers, where they may find you in social media wise?
Well, my website is slawmusic.com. That's the website, and it has the links to all the social media. But generally speaking, the social media handles is Slaw Music Official. So those are the two ways that you can connect. And yeah, I'd love to see everybody out there.
Fantastic. I just want to take a moment to remind future viewers to our interview to be on the lookout for your debut album, Here I Come. Hits the streets November 1st, just around the corner. And Scott, I just want to thank you so much for spending time in this early morning with us and getting to talk a little bit about music and the passion of music that we all share.
My pleasure. I'll do it anytime.
Well, I hope we can talk again, and I hope the next time we talk, you're 3 singles into another album, and it's funny. I'll just tell you a real quick story. So there was Jason Mraz, he when I worked for a record label, he came in and he was that. I think he was that artist. My colleagues that were older than me had artists like Aerosmith and all these different bands and Zeppelin and all of that they would go to those concerts. And that way they were living in that time. When I got into the business, it was someone like Jason Mraz was like the big name that I would say we saw him go from sitting in a boardroom with 10 people to just owning the stage and, playing for thousands of people now. But I was working for the catalog division of this record label. And he said, well, you're going to be promoting my record. It was his debut record. And I said, well, eventually, I said, because right now I promote catalog at this point in my career. And so then he wrote a poster for me and he said, hey, Kevin, he said, let's make this one old so we can make it new again. So it could be a catalog album, and that would mean like, hey, then, you promote the catalog and you get the next album coming out right behind it. All those songs that are waiting to be on the bench to be put into the next album. That's what I hope. I hope we're talking about that next time.
Very cool. Me too, man. That would be very cool. But it's been a pleasure. And yeah, like I said, I'll interview you next time. And you got a lot of background. I mean, those kind of stories, I'd love to tap into. It sounds like you got a million of them, so that'd be great.
Thank you. I love to share them. I just love to share them because if I don't share them, they're just stuck in my head somewhere. And it's just some of the stories are just the things that I've had the great fortune to be a fly on the wall for. It's just like if I don't share them with somebody, they're just in my head there, and I start to say, "Did that really happen?" After a while, pinch me. Did that really happen?
Yeah, so, it's cool stuff, man. Yeah, no, man, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, and I'd be happy to chat with you anytime.
Well, thank you, and best wishes on this new album, and just wish you all the best. I really love the music that you're putting out. So,
hey, man, I really appreciate it, Kevin. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.